I am Vinnie Tortorich, folks. Your good intentions have been stolen, but don't worry. I'm here to help you get them back. You may be soft and succulent at the beginning of this process, but hang in there. Before long, you will be lean and mean, guaranteed. Just like the woman on the other mic. She's been in here before. She's one of my favorite Friday guests. I'm talking about Registered Dietitian, Michelle Hurn. Yeah. There she is. Michelle, how are you doing?
Hey, I am good. Thank you so much for having me back on.
It's always a pleasure. You know, you're one of those people, you belong to an organization, as I like to say, that is putting out bad information, right? And you were part of that bad information until one day when you woke up, right? Registered dietitians, they're following what the Seventh-day Adventists came up with in 1865. When your fearless,
really bad.
When your fearless leader had a premonition one night, and God came to her and said, "Hey, no one should eat anything with a face." Ellen G. White. And we're joking about it now, but your whole profession is. Am I wrong about this?
No, I mean that's what the nutrition guide. That's where it started. The nutrition guidelines have zero foundation in science, and actually a very long history. I mean, first started, like you said, with the Seventh-day Adventists and Ellen White, and started with religious beliefs, and then of course, a lot of political corruption.
Yeah. And, Kellogg along the way became, he was part of that. He became famous for his cereal. And he was the father of dextrinization, turning a grain into sugar. And, when these guys with a lot of money, these industrialists come along, this was long before the internet. When your best friend owned a newspaper, you could get them to print whatever you wanted them to print, right? And they would get things done that way. So if we think all of this fake media and fake news and all that just started 5 minutes ago, this was happening in the early 1900s. Yes? No? How do you feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And Kellogg's was, John Kellogg was one of the first students of Ellen White, worked in their institution. And that's what the purpose of some of the cereals, and they call them meat analogs, basically things we would consider like, Beyond Burgers of today. Their goal was if you ate this, it would remove any lustful thoughts. Like they literally were trying to prevent people from, in their words, lustful thoughts and masturbation. So that was their point: is less meat equals less lust. It's very strange.
Well, look, I mean, and by the way, I'm not harping on someone's religion. I'm glad that people have God in their life and all of that good stuff. But, religion, a lot of religion has been steeped in, trying to control people and get people to think a certain way. I mean, it is what it is. It's funny how we can look at some religions and go, oh, that religion is stupid. They beat women over there, right? And look at these people. They if you're gay, they will throw you literally. They will defenestrate you. They will throw you out of a window. Right.
Absolutely.
And you go, well, that's crazy. It's like, well, is that any crazier than a religion who says, hey, we know that meat, this is how much we knew in the 1800s. We know that meat will make you virile and make you want, it will raise your testosterone. It will make you feel good. You will want to have sex. Therefore, let's cut meat out of the diet. Let's tell people that God told us that meat was bad. And in its place, we will put this cornmeal, and we'll shape it into flakes, and we'll give it to you for breakfast, right? That was the whole idea behind what they were doing.
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, how can this possibly be a bad idea? And when I say it, I know people out there are going to be, oh, come on, Vinnie, really? Come on. But you can back me up on this. These are facts, right? I mean, we're not making this up.
This is how the Academy of Nutrition, the governing board of all dietitians, that was the foundation. That's where the nutrition guidelines came from. It was basically, like you said, somebody said, God told me this.
Yeah. Well, look, in my first documentary, it's called Fat, a documentary for anyone who hasn't seen it. Before you put a documentary out there, before a company like Gravitas will buy it from you, they have to vet this thing right, left, and center. And this is not your attorney. This is their attorney that I have to pay for to vet the film, right? And they vet each and every line, each word. They're fine-tooth combing a documentary, right? And, they call you with a list of things that they need to fact check. And one of the fact check things was, hey, listen, you say some disparaging things about John Kellogg. And it was like, what did I say I was disparaging? And they said, well, you said that this guy did this, that, and I said, well, that's not disparaging. Those are what we like to call facts. And they went, well, this can't possibly be true. They made cereals that kids wouldn't masturbate. And went, oh yeah, not just kids, but yep. Grown ass men, everyone. Can you prove that? Oh yes, we can. And we did. It was left in the movie. Gravitas, their attorney signed off on that because we were able to prove that these are facts.
It's pretty well documented. It's in their own the book that Ellen White wrote.
yeah. That's what we did. We went and found their stuff and said, this is what they have. This is from them. We didn't come up with this. This is not AI. This is not the computer. This is not propaganda. This is from here you go. And you've never seen an attorney blown away more than these guys were blown away. They were like, we thought you just made that up out of whole cloth. It just seemed too fantastical. We had never seen. And there were several things like that in Fata documentary where the attorney went, well, right here, you say A, B, C, or D. And, oh yeah. And we would show them the facts and they just could not believe it. They cannot.
Well, yeah, it's hard to believe that our entire nutrition guidelines, like what we've been taught, what we've been, not just in schools, but it's what runs hospitals and nursing homes and is wrong and is so fundamentally flawed and not based on science. It's like people are like, what you mean? Yeah, it makes your brain explode when you really dive in.
Have you ever seen that movie? Have you ever seen Fata documentary? My first film?
I have not. I need to see it.
Oh, you need to watch it. You can watch it. I think it's free. I get paid for it, but it's free like on YouTube or something.
Okay.
That thing has been viewed. If you add up like worldwide and airplanes and Amazon and YouTube, it's been viewed like 30 million. Like movies, like hit movies have not been that big, right? And
look at you. Good job.
Yeah, look at me. I'm like Spielberg. I'm like the idiot Spielberg. So another thing they had trouble with, I'm trying to think of something else where they went, this can't possibly be true. But there were 3 or 4 things in a movie where they were like, you're making that up, right? I mean, that's not, when it comes to me, one of them just came to me and it just went right through my mind. And it's my movie. God, what was it? But there was a lot of things where they just went, this can't possibly be real. And we would show it to them and show them, Ansel Keys. There was a lot of that they had trouble with, all the Ansel Keys stuff. Anyway, it'll come to me in a minute. But yeah, we live in this world where something was made up out of whole cloth. And still today in 2025, doctors don't know anything about nutrition. They're never taught anything about nutrition. So in order to cover their ass, they'll say, I'm going to send you to a registered dietitian. You guys go through, you guys are registered and the whole thing. And you go, okay, we're going to follow these people, right? And that's what goes on. And you guys are still painting with that broad brush of meat is murder, meat is bad for you. Eat the more, grains you eat, they're heart healthy. Again, something made up by Kellogg and Post, the Post cereal people, CW Post. It's all just made up out of whole cloth to the point where people are confused. right? They get confused about all of it. So then someone like RFK comes along, and I know he's a lightning rod, and I get that. But I've told the story before, Michelle. I was in D.C. doing a speech a while back, right before the election actually happened. And after the speech, I'm sitting at dinner with a lot of the, let's just say, a lot of the people around what we do.
Okay.
Nina's sitting at the table. Georgia Eade and her wife is sitting at the table. And there was this guy who, he was a money guy, big money. And he healed himself by eating high fat, low carb, lots of meat. Doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. This guy's got a lot of money from the Midwest, and he's trying to figure out how to invest in this to make it all better. So he turns to me during this dinner and he says, everyone here seems to think that you have the answers. And I said, well, I don't have the answers. I said, the beauty of me is I find the people with the answers. I find Michelle Hurn. I find Nina Teichels. I find Gary Taubes and all of them. I find them all. And I bring them on my show. I'm just a curator. They come on and drop the knowledge. And they'll say, yeah, but you somehow have a media savvy. What do you think needs to be done? And everyone around the table, there was some other who's there going, well, there's got to be a groundswell. There's got to be a groundswell. And I said, listen, I've been hearing about this groundswell for 15 years. I've done 3,000 podcasts. This groundswell, if it is happening, is not happening fast enough. We need this thing to pop. And he goes, well, what do you think the answer is? I said, I don't know if this is the answer. And I said, I'm sitting here and I'm looking at my friend Georgia and her wife, and I can pretty much guess who they're going to vote for. And I'm not talking Republican. I'm not talking Democrat. I said, but if either side allows RFK to get in there, although people hate him and think he's a nut and he's against vaccines or whatever, if somehow RFK can get in there, we can at least start the conversation of stopping some of these drug companies, stopping some of these food companies from putting all the crap into food. Stop. And you really think, I said, no, I don't know if he's the answer or not. I just know that he's a disruptor. And if you guys want a groundswell, we need some disruption to happen. We can't have someone else in there just taking money from big pharma and big food, just rubber stamping everything. What say you?
That's interesting. So I guess I could give you kind of how I feel on both of them, like maybe my excitement and my concern, because I'm cautiously hopeful.
I'm very cautious too about him. I'm not a big rah-rah about Maha. I'm hoping Maha does something. Not even
him per se. I love what has he done that's amazing. Like you said, he has brought it to the forefront that some of this shit is a big problem. Right. We have a problem with food dyes. We have a problem with the food pyramid. And I love that, hey, the saturated fat guidelines are totally bogus and outdated. Yes. My concern is, as long as you have corporate lobbying, he can scream until the cows come home and they will just say hey, that's cool. Thanks. Blah, next. It'll just go to the Congress and they'll just say, yeah, that's cute. No, thank you. I mean, Nina's been screaming since I was a very young human, saying that hey, look, every single member of Congress is sponsored by at least one pharmaceutical. There's one lady that's sponsored by more than 30. She must be doing very well. And so although I worry it's a little smoke and mirror-ish, to where it's they're hey, let's appease these people. We'll get this guy in here and we'll be hey, cool, look at all the cool things we're going to do. But when they actually go to make me change, right, they're yeah, that's cute. No, because the food and pharmaceutical industry, specifically the pharmaceutical industry, is bigger and stronger than it's ever been. It's man, you thought it was big 4 to 8 years ago. I mean, Eli Lilly is about to become the first $1 trillion industry, so. Right. So that's kind of how I feel about that. Do I love a disruptor? Yeah. Do I think it's beyond time to have someone in there? But as far as gosh, I think I think if we're going to make change, it has to be like what you and I are doing. It has to be through podcasts, through movies, because most people still don't even just know how to eat, just the very basics. And like you said earlier, we have dietitians who are supposed to be the nutrition experts are completely brainwashed by their horrific education and the fact that we have to see a zillion patients and we don't have time and you just blame the system. So the whole thing is a mess.
Yeah, you know, the example, I think you're 1,000% correct, Michelle, because I've often said this. You take the NRA.
That's an example that's an example. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but one of my dad's a huge history buff and very, very smart human. And he said, if you can't change things when children get murdered, I don't know, good luck.
Well, I have a little different take on it.
Okay, tell me.
All right. So, and your dad will probably agree with me on this. Take the NRA. It's just like the NRA, when it comes to lobby, it's as big as food, drugs, and the teachers union, right? It's up there with the biggest lobbies. Small organization, lots of money. Okay. Well, what they want you to think is that the people on the right are for guns, right? They want AR-15s, they want guns, they want everything. And they want you to think that people on the left are against guns. Okay. Now, let's go back to, I don't know, let's go back to Clinton. You got Clinton. Did any gun laws change when he was in office? We had Obama for 8 years. Did any gun laws change? Democrat. Did any gun laws change? One gun law, any gun law change under Obama? Joe Biden? Any gun laws? Did anything change under Joe Biden? Zero. You've had 16, you had about 20 years of Democratic lawmakers, the president, 20 years worth. How many gun laws changed? Zero. As a matter of fact, the only gun laws that ever changed in any recent history, you weren't born yet, was something called the Brady Bill, which came from the right. And that was only because the president at the time was shot and Brady was shot. So here you go, here's a little something bill. So you'll go, well, Vinnie, what does that have to do with big pharma and big food? It has everything to do with it, because if you think the left is all about getting rid of guns, why won't they change one law when they're in power? Because they're getting just as much money from the NRA. That's the dirty little secret of it all. They get just as much money from the NRA as the right does. It's the dirty little secret. And your dad is 1,000% right. You go to Sandy Hook and shoot it up, you would think, looking at those horrific scenes, you would think there would be gun laws. Not one law changes. Not one.
100%. It's all, I mean, that's why we're still a metabolically unhealthy society. It's not that we don't have the studies. It's not that, you and I were talking before this, how quickly you can reverse type 2 diabetes, obesity, depression, heal multiple, every disease, PCOS, fatty liver, all kinds of things. We have the information, but once again, there's astronomical amounts of money in keeping people sick, and then it's not, like you said, it's not a left or right thing. It's everybody, and that's why I think it's very difficult to trust any politician, because, like, with corporate lobbying, they've been bought. And you have they would say you don't, but you do. You have a fiduciary responsibility that people paying you astronomical amounts of money to make sure that their products are successful and they stay. So certainly we're not going to have somebody in Congress be like, yeah, I'm going to vote against pharmaceuticals or against, when they're taking all this money.
And look, that's why these politicians get into Congress and they get into Senate, and you go, how do they never leave, right? How does that never happen? Perfect example, AOC, right? She famously, right as soon as she got in there, I think Amazon or one of those companies wanted to come in and create like 50,000 jobs or something right in her district. And she said no to Amazon. You would think, oh my God, how can these people ever vote her in again? Because she has so much money coming from everywhere else. She can tell Amazon to take a hike and she's going to still be in Congress, right? She's going to still do whatever she wants to do. And it's not just AOC, it's the right, it's the left, it's all of them. And it never really changes. That's why when people go, Vin, why aren't you never talk about your views on politics, right? Notice I'm not talking about the right here and I'm not talking about the left. I'm talking about politicians as a whole. Mm-hmm. These people do not make as much money as I do, yet they leave office rich. Where did that money come from? Where did it come from?
For lobbyists,
right?
Maybe I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, I know how much money I'm making.
Near as much as any politician or
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the most successful dietitians, when I was a young dietitian, when I first became a dietitian, so 2009, the highest paying jobs were for Kellogg's, Coca-Cola, what was one of the other cereal brand. And all you had to do was tell people how to eat these foods in moderation. And
what were they paying back then? What year was that? You said 2000?
2009. You could make between $85,000 and $100,000 as a new grad. So
really working for one of the sugar and grain companies.
Yes.
And let's say you went and worked for, I don't know, a hospital, because a hospital will have like a head RD and then they'll have RDs underneath. Just for an example, what would that job pay?
Oh, goodness. I think my first job, so because I worked for a hospital, was like $40,000 a year.
So less than half.
Less than half, absolutely.
And municipalities the same way. I know, like school systems and all will have an RD. What does that pay? Do you know?
Oh, I'm sure even less. Yeah.
Really?
I mean, a hospital was kind of like a bump above.
So how do you make a living?
I mean, now you would make more, certainly working in a hospital, but, since I've left, I left the hospital setting in 2020. Once I found out it was horrible and corrupt, it's like, once you see it and you can't unsee it. Yeah. And I mean, the answer is like, I don't know. I don't know if I would have been able to initially do that without having, a wife that had a separate good salary, because they literally, once you're in, it's almost, I have dietitians email me all the time. Like, how do I leave? Because I have this salary, but the salary is dependent on me giving people information that will hurt them.
Yeah.
It's like they got you trapped unless you have another financial, and doing counseling on your own is very difficult. It's very difficult to get enough consults. Insurance reimbursement is horrific. So yeah, it's not easy. I definitely don't have the answers for that.
I ever tell you my story about what happened when I was on a dais at, we ever talk about it? I was at Princeton. Did we ever talk about that?
No.
Let me run a quick ad here, and then I'll tell you my Princeton story, because you'll appreciate this and you'll understand it. Folks, Villa Capelli. Now, this is something I'm quite sure Michelle will get behind 1,000%. Villa Capelli makes the best olive oil on the planet. Look, when people say, hey, Vin, which supplements do you take? You own a supplement company. What do you take? Well, I take magnesium. I take multivitamins every day. I take zinc. I take a bunch of different things every day. I also take olive oil. And if my wife doesn't make a salad, and for me, a salad means that there's avocado in a bowl with a sprig of lettuce, because I don't really get lettuce. There's olive oil in that. And if there's not, I will pour a shot. I'm going to show you. If you guys think I'm kidding. Oh, right here. Hang on. You see this, Michelle? This is my shot glass. You see like the numbers on there? This is it's made for espresso, so you can measure out how much, because I'm big on coffee. I pour right here, 1 ounce. And then I do a little something special. I'll take my molten salt and I'll sprinkle a little bit in there. Salt and olive oil together. Killer. Now listen, not all olive oil is the same. Michelle will be the first to tell you want to get those polyphenols. That's what's so healthy for you in the olive oil. But here's the problem. Most oils are cut, and they're cut a lot. They'll cut them up to 40% in this country and still call it 100% pure olive oil. They can lie like that. Again, we were just talking about lobbyists and food and the whole thing. It's another lie that, that's why the government, we don't really trust that they're going to tell you the right thing. You have to figure out the right thing. Villa Capelli is the right thing. I know what you're thinking. Really, Italians are doing the right thing? Yes, some of us are good. We're not all in the mafia. Matter of fact, they don't even have an Italian mafia anymore. It's like other mafias now. At any rate, you want to get Villa Capelli. Paul Capelli was a close friend. Paul's husband, Stephen Crutchfield, Paul passed away a couple of years ago. Stephen could have sold that company, but he said, you know what? I'm going to keep Paul's legacy alive, and he's still making olive oil the old-fashioned way over in Puglia, and they won't sell it before it's time. Villa Capelli, let them know we sent you. Put in promo code Vinnie, VINNIE. You will save 10% every single time. Promo code Vinnie, VINNIE, no MPY, Villa Capelli olive oil. It's all I drink around here from my espresso shot glass, and it's what you guys should do at your house too. I see Michelle writing that down. She's going to probably buy some as soon as this is over. Michelle, so, I get invited to go talk to people, which is always odd to me because I feel like a fraud, like what do they call it, imposter syndrome. It's like, why do they want to hear from me type of thing? But when I get invited, I feel very honored, and I go. And about 8 or 10 years ago, I get a call from Princeton, like, "Hey, we want you to come." It's like, really? An Ivy League school, huh? All right, well, I guess I'll do that. So they fly me out to Princeton, and they tell me I'm going to be talking the next morning at X o'clock and be out in front of the hotel at X time and all this kind of stuff. And I'm always death on time. I'm 15. If I'm not 15 minutes early, I'm 20 minutes. I'm always there early.
Nice.
So they told me what time to be out in front of the hotel. I was out there 15 minutes early, and it was a college kid that was supposed to pick me up. Something got screwed up. He shows up late, and he's driving me there. They told me that the thing was starting while I was still driving in, but don't worry, as soon as I got there, they're going to usher me up on stage.
Jeez. Okay.
So they had apologized and said it wasn't my fault. This is all before I got there, right? So there's a bunch of people on this dais, and they usher me up while someone's in the middle of a conversation. And just like me, I never studied who else was up there that day, right? I never do that. I was just like, you know what? It doesn't matter who's up there. I'm going to tell the truth. I don't care. And I sit down, and I'm still kind of squirming in my seat, trying to settle in. And I hear a woman down a bit on her microphone. She goes, "Fat burns in the flame of carbohydrates."
Sorry.
And without hesitation, because I don't have a governor on my brain nor on my mouth, I said, "Robert Haas, 1983, I think." And the room got quiet. And the moderator said, "Who's Robert Haas?" I said, "Well, I think he was a doctor, or at least he called himself a doctor. Dr. Robert Haas wrote a book called Eat to Win around 1982 and 1983. And he wrote the words, 'Fat burns in the flame of carbohydrates. So if you never eat fat, you can't get fat.' Is that where you were going next, ma'am?" And she goes, "That's exactly where I was going." And I said, "So you think if you don't eat fat, you can't get fat?" She goes, "That's exactly right." And I said, all right. But you do realize that that book has been debunked left, right, and center. Turns out we had a lively debate, and it was a good debate. And after, there was a get-together, like a brunch for all the people that were up there, and everyone can mingle and come talk to us. And I see her coming over with a man, and I'm like, shit, I'm in trouble. Because I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm just going to tell the truth, right?
As you should.
And she comes over with her, and it turns out the man was her husband. "Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm the registered dietitian. I'm the head registered dietitian. to this very prestigious hospital. I'll tell you what it is off the air.
Okay.
But I won't tell you right now. I'm writing it down so I could tell you at the end.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. I said, you caught me when I first sat down. And she goes, tell me more about this Robert Haas. And I said, oh yeah, he wrote this book, and he was telling everyone just to eat sugar on top of sugar, and you can't get fat if you just eat sugar. And it was at the beginning of this whole don't eat fat, this whole saturated fat campaign. And that book, Eat to Win, was one of the early books. And we had a great conversation. We talked for probably an hour. And she took notes. She had never heard of Nina Teicholz. She had never heard of Gary Taubes. She had vaguely heard about the letter on corpulence by Banting. And you would think that they would teach you that on your way to becoming a registered dietitian. She didn't know about anything. I talked to her about cancer and cancer research and the ketogenic diet when it came to healing things like epilepsy, right? And I'm going through all these doctors and all this stuff, and it was right at the time where I was already doing all the research for Fat, a documentary, right? So it was all fresh in my head. And I'm telling her about all this stuff, right? All these doctors, and she's jotting everything down. And then we parted ways, right? She did her thing. I had to give another speech. They hired me to do 2 or 3 talks while I was there, and I left and the whole thing. But we traded numbers. And about a month later, my phone rang, and it was her. And she says, I've gone down all these rabbit holes. I've read all these books, and, you name it, I've read it. I've read about cancer and high-carb diets and all this kind of stuff. And I said, yeah? She goes, I have a real dilemma. I'm at a crossroads. I don't know what to do. She was the head registered dietitian at a huge hospital. And she goes, I can't unsee the truth now. Otto Warburg, I brought up everybody's name, right?
Yeah.
Banting, you name it, I brought it up. And she went down every rabbit hole. And she couldn't unsee the truth.
I know that. I very much understand that.
But how did you handle it? She never called. I don't know if she ever quit. I think her husband was a big time attorney, and they were well off and something. But I don't know if she stayed there. I don't know if she moved. I never talked to her again. What did you do? Where were you? Let's hear your story.
Yeah. Well, I was a registered dietitian. I became a registered dietitian in 2009. Was also a high carbohydrate athlete, and I'm just as you said that, I literally laughed out loud because that was something that was taught to me. That you can, like, carbohydrates are the foundation of human nutrition. Every disease, whether you're overweight, underweight, kidney failure, you have to have these whole grains, especially like heart disease, low fat whole grains. And that, carbohydrate or fat burns in the flame of carbohydrates. It's so stupid and completely against human physiology. But it's like anything else. It's one of those things that's repeated over and over and over again. And people just take as fact, right? So, my ketogenic journey, I actually was trying to qualify for the Olympic trials in the marathon. And it just all of a sudden felt like my performance fell off a cliff. I went from being able to run 10 miles easily to I was breaking out in cold sweats. I had lifelong anxiety. I had an eating disorder when I was much younger and had periods through my adolescence and into adulthood where I, lost weight, relapsed, but always suffered with anxiety, depression, at times suicidal ideation. And so now here I am, 2019, I was 36 years old, and this dream of trying to qualify for the trials, and I can't run. And, I reached out to a few sports dietitians. I was like, hey, what am I doing wrong? You get your labs tested, everything's fine. And they said I needed more carbs, more sugar, more calories.
Isn't that the crazy part, though, when they tell you to double down on the bad thing?
And you know what's wild is it's just like when you're in pain and when you're hurting, and once again, I don't think I can fully tell, and you get it, but just from the time you're a young dietitian, you're going through school, it's carbohydrates. And you're also taught that if health coaches, anyone who's not a dietitian is a total bozo when it comes to nutrition. Right. So people that are saying like ketogenic diets are good or low carb diets are good, it's like, nope, those people are bozos. Right. So yeah, so I went from eating 300 to 350 grams of carbohydrates to up to 500 a day for several weeks. And as you can imagine, that didn't go particularly well. I literally remember driving to work and I had to pull over. Like I couldn't see. I was sweating. Like my eyes was getting blurry. I was like, what is going on? It was really scary. I thought, if I didn't eat every few hours, I would get anxious. And then, I shared my come to Jesus moment. And so at that time I was working in acute care and floating. So covering different areas and, working in oncology, and I had a very young patient pass away. So I came home early and my joints were aching, everything was hurting, and I fell asleep on the couch. And it was like, probably like 4:30 in the afternoon. And then I woke up and it was like 2 a.m, like just slept through the evening. And it was just, everything hurt. Like I was sweating and everything hurt, and I was out of answers. By that time I had talked to 2 dietitians, both said the same thing: more calories, more carbs. Got my labs run. Everything was fine. My doctor wanted to put me on, I was already on anti-anxiety medication. They wanted to put me on an antidepressant, and I was taking ibuprofen, trying alcohol, anything, and nothing was working. And I think we get to this point where we're just like, what do we do? Yeah. And so, I drove to 7-Eleven at 2:30 in the morning, got a bunch of ice, put it in the bathtub, and I'm in there crying in an ice bath at 3 a.m. And that's when my wife was like, we have to do something different, Yeah. And I'm bawling. I'm like, I'm done. We're done running. We're done. Like I said, I was 36, and I'm like, hey, look, this is for people in their 20s to try to qualify. And it's funny because, there's really low, horrible points. You don't think wow, this is going to be a pivotal turning point in my life, because that's when I, ended up, I just remember thinking God, if I'm not running, I know all these carbohydrates are not making me feel well. And I do want to say I wasn't just downing sugar and Gatorade. I was eating sweet potatoes, brown rice, oatmeal.
All the stuff they tell you is good. And let me ask this. So Corinne walks in the bathroom. You're soaking in ice. But Corinne is not a health and fitness expert, right? She's just, she doesn't, is she an athlete at all even? Or what does she do?
No.
But she's smart enough to walk in and go, whatever in the hell you're doing is about to kill you, right? Is that?
Yes, because also, even though I was eating, an astronomical amount of calories, I was underweight, and my anxiety had gotten to the point to where I was calling out of work. I was having panic attacks, and I think she saw too, it was escalating. Right. And it only got that bad once before in our relationship, to where, it spiraled into suicidal ideation. And I think she kind of saw the writing on the wall, this is really bad. I'm scared for you. I'm scared for us. And so I think at that moment it was okay, and then I was, I'm so driven. I was still pushing myself physically that it was okay, we have to stop. We have to just reset.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a scary thing. I had a lot of clues, because I was an athlete, and it was always, hey, sugar is quick energy, right? We just knew that from the time. And when you're on the football field, they give you Gatorade or Coca-Cola or something, because you need that quick energy to go. So you learn that. And, you go through college and they you hear things like, fat is the body's preferred fuel. Your brain needs fat and this and that. But if you want to be an athlete, you need the carbohydrates, right? So I was taught all of that along the way, but I was always like, fat is fuel, and whenever I got into the ultra stuff, first it was ultra mountain biking. And, my biggest problem, and not just my biggest problem, but most ultra athletes, is not the first 12 hours. Is what comes after the first 12 hours, right? because that's when I would say you're like a kid at a birthday party and you just keep eating cake. At some point, your stomach goes off. So after that, the rest of the race, you're just combating, am I going to throw up? What can I do to not throw up? Well, let me just hurry up and throw up so I can get back to, gobbling down more of this crap so I can throw up again. When you say it now, when I say it now, it sounds insane, right? And when you say what you were doing, it becomes insane. But during that time, you're just figuring out, and the whole time you're thinking the reason I'm throwing up is because I'm exercising at a very high rate and no one goes 24 hours on a bike, right? So of course this is not normal. But I started seeing clues, and one of the things I was able to do when I was doing the 24-hour mountain bike thing is usually you go up a mountain and you come back down to the starting line somewhere between 45 minutes and an hour. So you don't have to carry anything with you. You have someone at the start-finish line handing you a new bottle of water to put on your bike because you want to travel light and giving you something to eat. And I realized that taking power bars and goo and sports drinks they were just going to make me get to that kid at the birthday party feeling at some point. So one race, it was actually it was 12 hours at the summit up in Big Bear, California. I'll never forget, it was the first time I tried something different. I went out and bought natural peanut butter, not Jif, the stuff that was just crushed up peanuts. And I took a stick of butter. So I put them both in a Tupperware bowl and I moist the butter and the peanut butter together. And then I added in some honey and I whipped it all up. So in my mind, I was getting fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And since the race didn't matter to me, I was like, it's just 12 hours. Let me see if this works, right? And by God, it worked. I went all day long. My times, I had maybe one of the best times I ever had in a 12-hour race.
Nice.
And I had done that course several times. And I didn't have anywhere near the amount of sugar or carbohydrates I would normally have. But then the next day, the next morning, something interesting happened. Because you see, the race would go from 7 in the morning to 7 at night. You would eat something and go to bed, right? Mm-hmm. The next morning I woke up and that's when they were doing the award ceremony. Now, if you've ever been around any ultra athletes, whether it's running or cycling or anything else, the day after the race, we all look like we have elephantitis.
Very swollen.
Your ankles,
Yes.
You can't even see the bones in your ankles, your calves. You look like, those big Samoan guys with the big calves? They play football. Usually you see them on the line in the NFL. Your calves look like that. The rest of your body is lean. Your fingers hurt. Everything is tight. You have so much inflammation. I barely had any inflammation. Now, we always thought the inflammation came from the fact that you were riding a friggin' bike for 12 hours on a mountain course, right? I'm looking around at all the other competitors and they're hobbling around with their elephantitis. I'm still looking at ankle bones. I'm still looking at ripped up calves. I'm not looking at elephantitis. And I'm like, at first I'm going, do peanuts have some kind of special, like I'm trying to do it in my head. Yeah. Is it the butter? And I remember loving that combination. By the way, a product that I've put on hold right now, my ultra fat comes from that. That was the beginning of ultra fat. I figured out a long time ago that in a race, if you have fat and protein and just a little bit of sugar, that's all you need. And you never swell up. A couple of weeks later, I was at a different thing, Michelle. I was at a 300-mile randonnée, a road bike 300-miler. Same thing. The day after those things, everyone's walking around the hotel with the elephantitis. I didn't have it anymore.
Nice.
It was all gone. Right. I'm lying. I'm not. I would get a little stiffness, a little tightness, but that's to be expected. 18 hours on a bike. Right. But that was the beginning of me going, wait a minute. Too many carbs. That's the problem. Eat more protein, eat more fat. Right.
the inflammation decrease is astounding. I would not have believed, as a marathon runner, I just thought like that's what you're supposed to do. You go run 18 miles, 20 miles, and you're just wrecked for the next day or so. You're like you said, you're swollen. It limits what you can do. You're just miserable for the weekend, and you just, do the best you can and pray that you can come back in a day or two. But yeah, I remember as a low carb athlete, especially for the ultras, like now, if you had told me like, hey, you're going to be able to run more than a marathon and come back and do like 15 to 20 miles the next day, I would have been like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't know if you guys, I'm going to be freaking kidding me. Like when I was a marathon runner, if you ran a marathon, you're out for a week, at least just so much swelling and inflammation. But yeah, I now see that the massive amount of carbohydrates that I was eating was causing pain, was causing damage. And now it's just so nice. People can't believe. They're like, wait, you don't eat a lot of sugar and carbs? Like, no, I get up in the morning, coffee, MCT oil, and I'm out the door for, 10 to 12 miles, and then I get my day going. So yeah, it's wild. I
just saw it. I was just out in the desert and watching the Badwater 135. And we're all staying at the same hotel that most of the runners and everyone's at. It's not just the guy running the Badwater. They have pacers that, that run 10 miles at a time. Even those guys get the elephantitis, right? Because they're sitting in the car eating snacks and cookies and everything else, going, okay, I got to get out of this car again in 5 hours and run another 10 miles with this guy. They're not running the whole race. And they're getting the elephantitis from just I call it elephantitis, folks. It's Corinne lit up. Corinne, I'm sorry. That's your wife. Michelle lit up when I said this because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. You look like you have elephantitis. Your feet swell up, your ankles swell up. Same thing happens to people in airplanes. They'll go, oh, I can't take my shoes off on a plane. It's like, well, first of all, you shouldn't take your shoes off. Like, yeah, my feet swell when I fly. It's the altitude. No. That cabin is pressurized. Your feet are swelling because you're eating the crappy cookies and all the crap they're giving you and the crappy wine and all of that. You're sitting there for 5 hours eating crap. That's why your shoes are getting tight when you're on the plane. It's the same thing, right? Doesn't matter if you're running or not. You could be on an airplane saying, no, it's going to happen. And that inflammation is not good. I'm going to do a quick ad, and you and I were talking about something off the air. It comes up with everyone like you, doctors, registered dietitians, what have you, PhDs. We're going to talk a little bit about GLP-1s because I want to get your thoughts on it. Okay. Folks, purevitaminclub.com. We're back. That's right. I'm running the company myself. I couldn't trust anyone else. I took over the leadership of my own company. And ta-da, everything ships on time. Everything's always in stock. Everything is happening the way it's supposed to happen over at purevitaminclub.com. If there's a mess up, we take care of it right away. Usually it's something to do with USPS or whatever, but that has been cleared up to no end. We're back and we're shipping all the time. Go check out purevitaminclub.com. The purest vitamins on the planet. We use the highest quality product. You can't do any better than what we have, and we don't put any excipients or flow agents or sand. Yes, some people put sand in their vitamins just to fill it out. These are facts. PureVitaminClub.com does not use any of that. It's my guarantee to you, and we make these things where? In China? Oh, no. In Japan? Nope. Oh, Korea? Do we make them in Korea? No! We make them right here. It's got a little stamp on the bottle. Got the American flag on it right here in good old US of A. These are made right here in this country. Support our country by purevitaminclub.com. We're talking to Michelle Hurn. Michelle, everyone brings up the GLP-1s. And look, people get upset with me. They get, and Vinnie, you talk about the GLP-1s. They're helping me. It helped my wife. She lost 150 pounds. It's like, listen, I get it. It's helped a lot of people lose some weight, but I'm here on the ground floor. You're on the ground floor. I'm seeing more people calling me with problems than what I'm hearing people being helped, right? All I'm getting is problem after problem after problem, and it all has to do with GLP-1s. I was warned about this by Dr. Ben Bigman. I was warned about this by Trokalasian and Eric Westman. These are some of the smartest minds out there. These guys were saying early on, these things aren't good. We're not going down a good road. What say you?
I would say I agree with every, that, like you said, those are some very smart humans, and I'm really grateful that I have access, to all of them. They're all in the American Diabetes Society with me. But I've never seen a drug. I've been I've been a dietitian, like I said, now for 16 years, where people seem to be almost like celebrated for using it. Usually people kind of like, oh, it's not like, oh, I'm on a statin. Let's have a statin club. Like, people are very proud almost to be using it. And, GLP-1s, I guess, and I'm sure Dr. Bickman and Eric Westman and everybody would agree and Tro, nothing in biochemistry is free. And I'm very concerned when we look at things in a vacuum, saying, and you're right, will these drugs cause you to lose weight? Yes, we have data that says they absolutely will. Do they suppress the hunger hormone ghrelin? Yes. But once again, when you can't affect one thing without potentially impacting other systems. And that is what we're seeing over and over and over again, and the most things that I've seen is people are having severe nausea and complications, like GI complications, and food isn't moving out of my stomach. And when they stop using it, they're still having that. They're not wanting to eat. We've had people with severe vomiting, people that are on them statistically, 70% of people stop after 2 years. And we know that a lot of the weight loss isn't fat. It's, you're losing some muscle and bone. And if you haven't really addressed that, you haven't fixed your eating, you haven't been doing resistance training, you're most likely going to regain that weight. You're not going to be regaining muscle and bone. You're going to be regaining fat. So yeah, probably the biggest concern, and it's a true story. So our dog has such allergies that we actually make his own food. He's so spoiled for him. So we're making, once a month, we make a bunch of Jackson food. He's a German Shepherd. And I literally remember thinking, like, wait, autophagy. Doesn't ghrelin impact autophagy? And so I reached out to a gentleman I know who's has his PhD in biochemistry. I was like, doesn't that, if you suppress ghrelin, artificially suppress ghrelin, would you artificially suppress autophagy? He was like, oh, absolutely. Yeah, you sure will. Yeah. So it's like, we have these drugs that's a problem, preventing your cells from turning over and cleaning it out. I mean, you're going to be at a higher risk for disease. And Dr. Filippo Vedia just had an article with Vedia that was showing that it actually decreases cardiac cell size. That's a problem. Yeah. And we know that also decreases, insulin-like growth factor, human growth hormone, all these things that are really important in protein synthesis and building muscle. And we're giving these to children too, people under 18. Yeah, it's sad. And so just like with type 2 diabetes, it's like, stop giving people insulin to shuttle the sugar out of their blood. You're creating another problem by potentially helping one problem. Yeah, you need to lose weight. You're creating a vastly worse problem, but it's going to be masked, and unless you have that acute, like, nausea, vomiting, whatever. I have a feeling in 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a lot of people with either GI issues or some cardiac issues. Potentially, you're at a high risk for depression. So yeah, it just seems like a really bad idea.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been saying from day one, from when the GLP-1s got really popular for weight loss, which was only a couple of years ago, I said, we're going to look back on this era and go, what the F were we thinking? What were we thinking? There's nothing, and whenever I would put those videos out there, people were like, oh, you're just jealous. Jealous of what?
What? Yeah, jealous that I follow a way of eating that makes me a healthy human. Yeah.
Yeah. Why am I jealous? I want people to lose weight. And if GLP-1s can help people lose weight without side effects, I would agree. One of the first big side effects, well, we always knew about the nausea and everything else, right? So that's one thing, because it slows down the gut, and people just feel, some people don't get the nausea, but good for them, right? But most people do. Whenever they have to keep raising it, like you go from Ozempic to Mounjaro to Wegovy, when you start upping the dose, it will slow your stomach down so much to where when people burp, it's putrid. It smells like roadkill to them and to everyone else who's around, because the food is getting rotten in their stomach. It's not passing through the way it's supposed to. There's nothing healthy about that at all. And if we think we're going down a good road, and early on, they were going, well, because doing what I do for a living, getting people to lose weight, we always knew that you're going to lose 15 or 20% of your weight in muscle if you lose it naturally, right? So if you lose 100 pounds, somewhere between 15 and 20 pounds of that is going to be muscle, unless you start exercising with your weight loss, right? And if you're 400 or 500 pounds, I get it. You really can't move much, but you can walk into a gym and start moving and doing lat pulls and maybe bench press and doing whatever you can, even if it's zero weight, just moving the bars around, getting into it. So there's a way to combat that if you're losing weight naturally. But if you did nothing, let's say you were confined to a wheelchair and I took 100 pounds off of you, some of that is going to be muscle, maybe 15 pounds, 20 pounds at the most. Most people as low as 10. So that's on a 100-pound weight loss. With GLP-1s, at first we thought it was 30 or 35%, which is 1/3 of your weight loss is in muscle loss. That's a scary number. But then we found out it was way more than that. And some of the numbers started coming back from studies, 40, 42%. Ben Bikman was the first one to go, oh no, it's half. For most people on the higher doses, they're losing half. Now, the thing you have to remember is one of the muscles in your body is called your heart, right? Your heart's going to be affected. Your heart is getting weaker along with everything else. And to your point, Michelle, as soon as you go off of these things, you don't just gain the weight back the way you would if you went off of a regular starvation diet. You gain it much faster. We don't know why. Ben Bikman he's explained the science to me, and it's a little too far for me. I think Tro tried to explain it to me also, but part of it is because you've lost so much muscle mass that, the fat just takes over and you're in a much worse position than you were before. And I'll keep shouting this from the mountaintops, folks. If you're on this stuff and you've lost a lot of weight, I'm happy for you. But Michelle said it early on. She's helping people just like me. We're helping people that have A1Cs of 10, 11, 12, and we get them below 5.6, which makes them non-type 2 diabetic anymore. These people end up coming off of sleep apnea machines. You might have heard Tro Kalayjian a couple of weeks ago on a Friday show. They're taking people off of CPAPs. They might be on 20 medications. They'll drop down to 2 or 3 medications. Are you seeing that same sort of thing, Michelle?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Dr. Mariella, we got somebody off 19 medications. Like, they were on an astronomical, they didn't even know what the medications, one was for the side effect of this medication.
Yeah.
So you can do that. And another worry I think you would share with this is beyond GLP-1s, but certainly the GLP-1 agonist, is it promises a quick fix. It doesn't teach you. If you're going to have sustained success, you have to change how you look at life. You have to change how you look at food, your relationship with food. How do I look at movement? How do I look at how I think? And it's such a big problem with our society that we think we can take a pill or inject ourselves and everything's going to be fine. It's like, no, you actually have to live differently.
Right. So. Yeah, it's all kind of scary. And God, I feel bad for I have family members on GLP-1s, and I don't say anything to them. I'm wishing them well, but I know the outcome. I talk to too many people. I do consults with people 5 days a week. People could go to VinnieTortorich.com right now and sign up for a half an hour or an hour. And, one of the big ones I get is, I was on a GLP-1. It just didn't work out for me. And I've gained all the way back plus, or some version of that. Sure. I'm on my way back up. It really screwed me up, especially the ones that, I guess, is it Wegovy? That's the one I keep hearing. So I was on Wegovy, and that's the one that's really screwing people up.
No, we tend to see more problems.
That's like the strongest
they're so
one, right?
easy to get though. Like when I was on, I got to speak on the low carb cruise, and just for fun, somebody on the cruise approached me and said, "Hey, I just went online to see how easy it would be to get a drug, and you just had to put in something. They didn't make you say, hey, we need the doctor, we need whatever. You just could put in your credit card, and they said 4 out of 5 of things they went online, it was going to be that easy. So
yeah, it's all just nuts. By the way, folks, you want to go check out Michelle. She does this thing. I don't go over to Instagram very often anymore because Instagram decided to shadow ban me.
Oh, geez.
I went from 0 to like 100,000 people really quickly. And then they went, oh, wait, that's the guy that puts movies out that talks bad about meat, Beyond Meat and Impossible Burgers. I got shadow banned, and so I was, why am I beating my head up against the wall to help Instagram out? It's not like I make a living from it, but you and your wife, you guys do an incredible job with these these little things you put together where one of you, I think most of the time you act like she's asking the smart question.
I'm the dietitian. Yeah. She's the very, she's just the logical patient. Like, oh, why? If my blood glucose is high, should I have less carbs? And I'm like, of course not. The ADS, the American Diabetes Association says you need lots of carbs. And, so we do funny little skits where, and people like this because they're funny, but it also is trying to make you think, like, oh my gosh, maybe we should be thinking differently about this, or maybe these associations are all about money. So thank you. We appreciate that.
No, she plays the best straight man because, I know you guys write them out and they're done to a T, and you're just playing the ditzy registered dietitian. No, eat more carbs. And she's like, but isn't it this, that, and the other thing? And it's just so brilliant. Please do more of those. I love that you guys are out there doing that.
I'll tell her we have to film some more of those.
Yeah. So folks, go check out Michelle. Tell everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, so I just updated my website. So the dietitiansdilemma.net. I've got my book, The Dietitian's Dilemma, my kids' book, The Fox Family Food Fight, on there. And yeah, if you want to do a consult with me, do that as well. On X, I'm at Michelle Hurn RD. I'm on Facebook, just Michelle Hurn, and through Instagram at Run Eat Meat Repeat. Yeah,
that's not hard to remember. But just remember Michelle Hurn and go put that into the Google machine, and you're going to find everything this woman is doing.
That'll pop up.
Because no one remembers. Repeat and eat. And what did she keep running? And
just Google Michelle Hurn and you'll find me.
Put in Michelle Hurn RD and you're going to find everything you need to know about this woman. You know what to do with me. We all go shopping on Amazon. Before you go to Amazon, go to VinnieTortorich.com. It puts coal on the fire, gets my train down the track, and I'm able to keep this show free for a gazillion years in a row. So go and do that. I think that's about it. So, on behalf of Michelle Hurn, my name is Vinnie Tortorich. Put life into living and do it with enthusiasm.